Hey guys, thanks for watching our shows.
We are so close to hitting 1 million subscribers, so please help us get over the top by smashing that subscribe button.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram where you can stay up to date on all contests and giveaways. Like the Corvette, you can enter to win right now.
And now more tech you can use on Carcass. Today on Carcass, we go hunting for a new project vehicle.
And what we find at the junkyard isn't in the best shape, but will it run?
We'll find out today on Carcass. Jimmy and I are in Car Guy Paradise. We're at Bobby White Motors here in Columbia, Tennessee, and pretty much everywhere we turn, there's something interesting to look at. Kind of like this Spider-Man Firebird thing.
Kind of a lost cause. The cool thing about salvage yards is you can pretty much find any part for any car that you're working on. I have an OBS GMC truck that's very similar to these GM full-size SUVs. And like on this Tahoe, you got a really good front fender, you have a nice hood other than the paint, and you even have a good core support. And if you haven't been to a salvage yard like this, they're actually really organized. Like just in this row, you have full-size GM SUVs and trucks, you have full-size GM cars in one spot over there, and by Jeremy, you have full-size Ford trucks.
We're pretty much two kids in a giant candy store out here, and Jimmy and I just keep walking around going, why would anybody scrap that out? Or you could completely build this truck. Take this old Ford. Yes, the motor's missing, but the hood is actually in the back of the truck. You could easily pluck this out of the salvage yard, put an engine in it, and put it back out on the farm for good use. You could even teach your kids how to drive. But I really don't think this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, we're really looking for the right vehicle for our next project, and hopefully we can find something pretty interesting.
You know, I hate to say it, but there's an awful lot of Fords out here. $17, $18, $19. You know, we could put a Jeep together with this entire row.
They got 3/4 ton axles up near the front too, but it's still just a Jeep.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Jeremy and I couldn't really decide what we wanted to take home with us, and then we ran across this crusty old square body.
Yeah, it's a mid-70s, late 70s C-30. Somebody's got a wrecker body on the back of it. I don't know, this thing's got a ton of potential.
And the nice thing is that this is probably one of the most complete vehicles in the salvage yard. We've came across a few that could maybe run and drive under their own power, but I think this is our best option.
This truck checks all the boxes that Jimmy and I are looking for. It's a square body Chevy pickup. It's got the classic patinaed exterior, and it's one of the most popular trucks being put back on the road. Looks like it's got an old tried and true small block in it. It's missing some of the parts.
Alternator's gone, but we don't really need one, I guess. A battery, obviously.
Carburetor.
Yeah.
Find one of them. And the biggest upside to this one, it's got all the tires on it.
Yeah, I think they're all holding air too. I didn't see a flat one, which is good.
I think we're good. It's rusty, but it looks complete, at least.
So the dash is cracked, the seat's kind of ripped up, and hopefully you can see this. There's like a giant hole in the floor. And obviously that's unsafe for a bunch of different reasons, but I think If we kind of leave the outside as is and just spruce up the interior, make it safe and nice, that's probably a pretty good way to go about it.
Well, the outside tire's flat, but the inside tire's holding there. Oh, we got some big issues on the chassis. There's a giant hole clean through the frame, right where the leaf spring hanger rivets right to the chassis. And being from the rust belt, that's something I've seen before, but there's a good reason why this truck's in the junkyard. Like at any point in time, the chassis could literally just V right in half and lay this thing right on the ground. But you know, it's something Jimmy and I can completely handle. I don't know, man. We got some major issues with the chassis. I see you found a giant hole in the passenger floor. The truck is complete. Is this really something we want to tackle?
Maybe. I mean, this is the most unique thing we could have found in a salvage yard.
Right.
So it's kind of like, how different do you want to be?
No, totally. I'm on board if you're on board.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a shot at it. It should come out pretty nice.
I think so.
I think it'll run too, right here.
I'll bet it'll run.
Just needs a couple things.
Yeah. So all we really need to get this thing going, I think, is a battery. We're missing the carburetor, so we'll bring one of those. Some fuel, a hope and a prayer, and we'll bring the trailer back tomorrow. We'll try to get this thing back to the shop.
Up next, we find out if our 1977 C-30 tow truck has any rumble left in it.
You're watching Carcass.
Jeremy and I took a night to think about it, and we're back with the truck and trailer because we're ready to take on our next challenge.
I hope she runs.
We've been hunting through Bobby White Motor Salvage Yard in Columbia, Tennessee, and I think Jeremy and I have finally found our next project. This is a 1977 C-30 with a wrecker body on the rear, and this thing needs some work, a lot of work. But it's such a unique find, we're determined to get it running so we can take it home.
Well, we popped our head underneath here yesterday and we knew we needed some parts, so we grabbed that from the shop. So let's get the carburetor on it, we'll throw an alternator at it, and we'll put a battery in this thing.
Yeah, we'll check the oil too, make sure we're not running it dry. And to be honest, like, we only need to run this thing for a couple minutes just to get on the trailer, and worst case is we're on a hill anyway, so we can kind of coast it down and then just winch it up.
Yeah, we'll make sure we check the brakes too.
Yeah.
Hope these are wired right. It's gonna last a little bit. Can you check the fluids quick?
It does have oil. It's brown.
Is it clean?
It's actually not as dark as I thought it would be, but
As long as it's got
there.
something. That's a rusted clamp. Glug, glug, glug. I think the filler's over here. Am I
on the
wrong?
other side.
Or it's on that side too. Don't spill much. That should be enough. All right, moment of truth, hop in, Jimmy. Brakes-ish?
No, not really. They're hydro boost, so
Okay.
they're not really gonna work unless
I'm gonna stand on this side, crank on it a little bit.
E-brake might work.
I would be shocked.
E-brake works.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it actually works.
All right, cool. Go for it. Cranks. Hey, there's fuel up in the fuel filter. Keep doing that. All right. It runs. It runs. Wow. Dude, it actually
It's
runs.
idling by itself.
actually runs.
Yeah.
I wonder if they just brought it here because of the chassis.
Maybe.
Somebody took parts off it. I mean, it's loud and it's got exhaust leaks and all this other stuff, but
Yeah.
wow.
It's a little bit lumpy.
Should we see if it moves?
Huh?
You want to see if it moves?
Yeah. You
I
want
gotta
to
take
close
the
the hood?
stuff out from under the hood, but let's see if it moves.
Yeah. Close the hood and we'll see.
Oh, nice hood. It sounds terrible. Wow, look at this thing. There, she's a rocket ship. Wow. All right, I'll go move the truck and trailer.
Okay. I want to see if let's see if the wrecker works.
Oh, I never thought of that. Will this sit here without rolling away?
Yeah, I got the e-brake on.
Oh, no, that's right, it works. Yeah, all right.
I think this is a clutch lever.
I don't know. Oh,
All right.
that, whatever he did was the wrong one.
Hold on.
Oh, wait, here. I got it. Pull this one back. Pull that into gear. This goes into gear. Okay, got that? All right, now let that one out.
Oh!
Stop before it breaks. Okay, here. Now watch. Now we'll go down. I think. Okay, go down. Oh!
That's cool.
There's no way. We should tow a car out of here.
Yeah, another project.
One to know.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Let's take her back to the shop.
Up next, we dig into our patina tow truck, and what we find is not surprising. We brought this junkyard find back to the shop to give it a good top to bottom inspection to see if we missed anything at Bobby White Motors.
Needless to say, this truck has some character and a lot of rust. Some of it contributes to the patinaed look that both Jimmy and I like. But in other places, well, it's gonna cause a few headaches.
Rust aside, we have some ideas for what we want to do with this unique find, like what we plan to do with the doors. We partnered with WyoTech to do some rebranding on this work truck.
So we shipped the doors off to be worked on while we brainstormed some ideas for this truck.
And here's what we came up with. Our goal is to get this old square body back on the road and make it safe again. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is address the rusted out chassis under the bed out back. Those are the danger points, and those are the most important things to get fixed first.
Then we'll pump this old square body with a little more power and an automatic transmission to match. After some power upgrades, we'll move to the inside and spruce up this 50-year-old interior. We'll do this by tackling the floor repairs first. Then we'll throw in a new dash, new instrument cluster, a steering wheel, and a nice seat to match.
Finally, we'll tackle the wheels and tires with a rattle can refresh, turning back the clock on this old work truck. Well, at least in the wheel department.
This all starts with some disassembly.
Removing the wrecker body out back will take a little more work than just a normal pickup bed would take. We have to completely disassemble the tow rig before we can separate it from the truck. For starters, we need to unhook the suspension cables that hold this arm in place. Then with it lowered, we can unbolt it at the hinge points. With it loose, Jimmy and I can slide it out and set it aside for now.
With the arm out of the way, we can put our focus on the triangular frame support. With 50 years of rust, this created some challenges with the bolts, and in some cases, we found it easier just to cut them off rather than to try and unbolt them in those tight areas.
What you can't see here is a puddle of molten metal forming as the torch heats up the nut. Once you see the puddle form, you pull the trigger. And the oxygen not only raises the temperature to make the puddle flow, but the pressure also helps clear the slag. With those hard to reach fasteners out of the way, we have a couple more mounting bolts to break free.
All right, so the last thing, the rear leaf spring hangers are welded to the back of the box.
Yeah, I saw that.
Geniuses that put this together thought that was a good idea, so we got to get those apart.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to do it is we'll just grab the old fire stick again. We'll just torch out the back. It's going to be way quicker to deal with it with the box off. Then we'll figure out how to fix it after that.
Yep.
All right. The box out back is made of 3/16 steel, and a torch will make quick work of cutting out a section, so we can finally lift the box off the chassis and get a closer look at what we're working with.
With both sections cut out on the back, we're going to use the lift to help us raise up the bed.
Yep. Let me show you guys why we had to cut the wrecker body off of the chassis. Now, the wrecker body is a universal fit body. It fits many different makes and models. And when they put it on the back of our Chevy truck, they actually cut the back of the frame off. And by doing that, they cut the rear leaf spring hanger off as well. Now, to give it a little more support, when they put the body back on this truck, they welded the wrecker body to this rear leaf spring hanger in a bunch of areas that Jimmy and I just couldn't get to. So that's why we had to make this big cut to get the body off the truck.
And now that we have the box off the chassis, Jeremy and I can get a much better look at the rust, and it's a lot worse than we originally thought. This whole side of the frame rail right here is just completely wiped out. So what we were thinking is maybe cut this section of the frame rail out and replace it, but now we actually think it'd be easier to cut the chassis somewhere back here and completely replace both frame rails.
Coming up, we're cutting out the rust.
But before we can do that, there's more we need to strip.
You're watching Carcass.
Our 1977 tow truck is a unique find, but all those years spent rescuing vehicles on the side of the road were not kind to this old moneymaker. The key word here is rust. Anywhere water was able to sit and touch metal left a mark. And I'm sure that dirt and debris like this did not help this old chassis.
The patinaed look of this truck is why Jimmy and I fell in love with it. It's why we pulled it out of the junkyard. But the question here is, what are we going to do with this thing? Well, we're going to give it a second chance at life. We're going to put it back on the road. And the front's going to get a bunch of horsepower. The interior is going to get all spruced up, be nice, comfy, and cozy. In the back, we're definitely going to make it safe again, and heck, we might even tow with it. But the real issue here is rust. There's a big difference between cosmetic rust and structural rust. Well, how are we going to fix that? Well, we could just go out, get a whole new frame. We could come in, cut the bad metal out, and replace it with some good steel. Or we could just cut the back half of this truck off and start over again. And that's what Jimmy and I are going to do. But before we get to throwing any sparks, there's a bunch of parts and pieces we got to get off this thing.
We'll start with the drive shaft. Decades of rust have made it difficult to remove the bolts and pry the sucker loose. A pry bar helped free up the U-joint. And since this is a two-piece drive shaft with a hanger bearing, we also have to unbolt the connection to the transmission. With those loose, we can wiggle it free and slide it aside for now.
Next, we need to remove the gas tank. A quick tip: if you can, empty the gas tank before you remove it. It's a lot easier working with your coworker when you don't stink like old octane for the rest of the day. The last thing we need to do is cut the winch linkages that span the length of the truck.
Like Jeremy mentioned earlier, there's a couple different ways we could go about repairing the rust in this chassis. The first way is to cut out this section of the damaged chassis and try and recreate it. The problem with that is the metal around it is so bad that we'd have to extend that section all the way up into this radius portion. Trying to recreate this radius would take so much time and effort to match it perfectly that I think our time is better spent elsewhere. So we're going to opt to cut the entire back half of the chassis off and recreate it using C-channel and rectangular tubing. We're not going to get there today, but we still need to cut this chassis apart. So now, where exactly do we cut the chassis? Looking at this bottom surface, I can see that the metal is really pitted and it's just not structurally sound. But the closer that we get to the back of the cab, the metal becomes relatively less pitted or not pitted at all, and that's a great starting point for us to make a cut.
There's a little prep work we need to do prior to making this cut. First, we'll take a pinion angle measurement while the truck is sitting on level ground. Next, we need to get a wheelbase measurement. We do this by measuring center to center of each wheel. With that out of the way, we're ready to cut.
We're using an acetylene torch to make this cut, and there are a few things to note about the cut you get with a torch like this. First, you won't be able to weld immediately after this cut. The slag left behind from it leaves a rough surface and is very porous, so expect to do some grinding to clean it up. Second, it's really tough to freehand a straight line, so expect to do some cleanup with a grinder once you get the two pieces separated.
Oh yeah! Easy peasy.
Our tow truck is now ready for a new rear end. And if you would like to follow along with this build, go to PowerNationTV.com.